I'm Aliyah, and I'm here with Teen Talk Sunday, and I am going to be interviewing Kathy Banning. So, where do you work? Like, what's your place of work?
I work for a company called Indigenous and Community Engagement. We specialize in community engagement and consultation with First Nations primarily, but also non-Aboriginal communities.
All right. What do you like about your job?
I love meeting people. I really enjoy spending a lot of time helping communities, listening to their needs and helping them achieve goals that they've set and improve their quality of life.
So do you think when you listen to their needs, you can help them?
Absolutely. If I can't help them, I'll try to help them find ways so they can get the help they need. So in an essence, there's always a way to help someone, for sure.
All right. So what school did you come from?
Right from elementary school? That's a pretty big question. I grew up in a time when there was a lot of government cutbacks and stuff like that. So I went to St. Stan's School for my first few years of my education. That got closed because of government cutbacks. Then I went on to St. Mary's School, and from St. Mary's to St. Pat's, which was an intermediate school at the time, not a high school. And from there I went to Selkirk. From Selkirk, Confederation College. After that, I did a lot of courses through Wilfrid Laurier University, Dalhousie. Yeah, that's my education.
So, St. Pat's, you said it was an intermediate school, right?
Yes.
So, what school is it now?
St. Pat's
is a high school.
Right, St. Pat's turned into a high school sometime after my graduation from there. I'm not sure when, but anyways, now the building that used to be St. Pat's and the fundamentals of an intermediary school is called Pope John Paul. That's where I went. When I went there, it was called St. Pat's and it was intermediate. Now it's Pope John Paul.
And then Selkirk is now St. Pat's.
That's right.
All right. So what was the bullying like at your school?
Well, throughout my life, when I was in elementary school, there was a lot of discrimination against Aboriginal people. Bullying was, from my perspective, it was focused on some of the Aboriginal children and women, young girls as well. For example, myself in grade 3, I was bullied a bit by we're all little kids, right? In grade 3, I think you're about 7 or 8 years old, and I was kicked really hard in the school, and he kept repeatedly kicking me in the behind. And finally I put my hand there to protect myself, and he kicked me so hard that I broke my thumb. So I landed, so it wasn't just bullying verbally, it was physical, and I landed in the hospital and had a cast all the way up to my elbow from that. Then when we moved on to other schools, there was all sorts of bullying. Some people even considered some of the teachers as bullies. We certainly had, it was a different time when corporal punishment was allowed in schools. I remember getting the strap when I was a little kid for giggling in the cloakroom, of all things. So there was that kind of bullying. They thought it was discipline, I suppose. And then when I went on to the higher grades, like what would now be Pope John Paul, St. Pat's and stuff like that, a lot of it was targeted at, were you pretty enough, were you skinny enough, were you athletic, were you smart enough? You know, there's all sorts of bullying, and some of it was racial, some of it was gender related, and some of it was just plain old personality conflicts that people, I don't like you for whatever reason, and they pick on you, and then they spread it around.
So what do you think is the difference between bullying then and bullying now?
The biggest difference that I see is the social media impact. When I was growing up, bullying was face-to-face largely. Sometimes it was over the telephone, but not that often. So it was face-to-face bullying. Sometimes it was physical intimidation, for sure. But the largest part today now seems to me to be the social media. So when somebody bullies another child or another person, not just children, but when they bully them on the social media, you end up with it being spread around to millions of people, and the bully and the perpetrator of the bullying act both become victims, the way I see it, because it's of course hard on the victim of the bullying, and it gets spread around maybe that it's true. So all of a sudden, if I seen it on Facebook, it must be true. That person is a undesirable girl because she's got lots of boyfriends, or whatever the attack is on her personality. And it gets spread around to so many people, and then all these other people pick it up and they join in the bullying, and it just gets blown way out of proportion. The victim then also, or not the victim, but the perpetrator also becomes a victim, because now all of a sudden all these people are watching the bullying act over Facebook, and then they're maybe start bullying the perpetrator of it too, and then the perpetrator also becomes a bad person. So it's just, to me, it just is multiplied a million times more than what it was like when I was growing up. When I was growing up, it was isolated to who was ever in the room at that time, or earshot distance, and maybe a few close friends or family members that they spoke to about it. But now it's out there in the broader sense, and it's just that much larger and difficult.
So why do you think people cyberbully?
Holy, why do they cyberbully? Probably because a lot of times, if it's not say on YouTube or anything like that, but if it's strictly limited to Facebook content and texting messages and stuff like that, then I suppose they have a feeling of safety, that they're actually not in harm. They're not in harm's way of, you know, somebody reaching out and grabbing them for doing the bullying, but also that they're anonymous maybe. You know, if they use a fake name on Facebook or they have a fake ID, they're somewhat anonymous if they don't have their pictures posted, and a lot of people don't know, so they have a feeling that they can get away with it maybe more because they have that protection of it just being over the internet or being over text, iPhones and stuff like that, as opposed to being face to face where, you know, someone can grab you and say you're out of line.
So do you think, like, when somebody cyberbullies, do you think it'd be longer to catch them or faster? Like,
well, I suppose it depends on what level of protection the person that's committing the cyberbullying act has. If they have a fake ID, then, you know, lay people like the parents of the child or the person that's being bullied can't maybe figure it out as easily, or the teachers at the school or whatever can't figure out really who is perpetrating the bullying. But certainly if it was an extreme case of bullying and police were called, they have technology, all sorts of technology, where they can go in and search IP addresses and find out where it's coming from. So they could pin it right down to the computer in the house or the iPhone that was used to do the bullying. So it depends on the extremity of the bullying and who gets called in to help.
so do you think the bullying was harsher when you were a kid, or harsher like for kids nowadays?
I think it's harsher now. Honestly, when I was a child growing up, it was hard on you no matter what. It hurts your feelings. It could cause you physical pain, not only emotional pain, but it was relatively controlled because it was in a smaller group. Now all of a sudden, and it would disappear after, you know, somebody picked on me as a child, it would be you know, contained to my class or whoever was around at the time, and then after it was over and we were, you know, over it, myself and the perpetrator, whatever happened, it was a resolved issue, you go on. The bullying on the media, it stays there forever. You know, you can go back on somebody's Facebook page for months and months. I myself am on Facebook. So I get messages on Facebook, and I'll post something on Facebook. 8 months later, I'll get a like to that thing, and it's like, holy man, I don't even remember what I posted. Then I click on it. It's so people can look at it for months and months, so it lasts way longer than it used to, where before it's forgotten within a few days or a few weeks.
All right. So you do think that the bullying is harsher nowadays?
Yes.
Why do you, like, is there, like, I don't know, something that you can do about the bullying?
Myself personally, or society in general, as if I was a parent of somebody that was being bullied, I would certainly try to talk to the family of the person that's doing the bullying. Again, it all goes back to the extremity of the bullying and how real it is. If it's somebody picking on, you know, another student, saying something like, I don't like you because you're dumb. You know, a pretty generic comment, not really attacking their intelligence, but maybe, you know, they're dumb in the way they dress. However they want to take, you want to take that word dumb. That's one thing, but another type of attack, you know, where somebody bullies you and I'm going to kick your butt, you big bad black mish, you know. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be offensive, but I'm trying to give an example of something that might be on cyberbullying. That's a little bit of a different thing, because now there's a threat of physical, you know, and there's an attack on something that may be really personal to that person. The fact that they know the color of their skin, or the fact that they know their race or their gender and stuff like that, that makes it a little more personal and serious, because there's a threat that actually this person can find me and know where I am and, you know, cause some sort of harm to me or my family. It becomes more real and more serious. So if I seen something like that on my child's Facebook page or on her cell phone or his cell phone or whatever it is that the bullying came through, I'd react differently. Mm-hmm. And then you might consider calling in, you know, school help or authorities. Depends. It really depends on the extremity and how I felt, how I interpreted the bullying and how real it was. You know, if I thought it was a vague bullying, just a, you know, a silly comment from some juvenile, or if it was a real comment attack on something and they have clear knowledge of my personal family, my home life, whatever, it's different. It's definitely.
Well, I also know, like, so last year I just moved to this new school, and there was this girl, and she used to bully people online, and then people would say something back, and then she would delete all her comments and take a picture of what the people would say something back. So she'll be like calling them names and stuff like that, and then they'll be defensive over themselves, so they'll call her like even worse names. So then she'll delete all the comments before and take a picture of that and give it to the police, and then everybody else was getting in trouble but her.
But she's silly.
Mm-hmm.
Because she doesn't realize that that type of bullying is two-sided, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not only is it on her phone, and she deleted it and snapshotted it, but it's on the receiver's phone, and they haven't done the deletions that she's done, so there's still a record of it.
But nobody believes, like, the person. So if she's taking a picture of what somebody's sending her, they're gonna think, oh, wow, this is like bad, or like this person's automatically bad. We don't like this person. we're gonna like take away the person's stuff and stuff like that, and we're not gonna give it back for like another 2 years, and then we're gonna give it back, and then this is gonna probably happen again. But they only take the side of like this person who screenshots the photo, and I know that person hasn't been like caught yet, and people have reported it, but the teachers at the school and stuff like that, it's like, no, we have proof of this, but the student would like leave the group after a while. Like on Instagram, you'll be in a group and the person will leave the group, so the person has no evidence.
Wow. I don't know all of the technologies. I actually don't know anything about Instagram, so I can't comment on if there's a trail. But my guess is that, you know, once something's posted on an electronic device, there's always some sort of trail. So the person that is now being painted as the bad bully is really maybe not, is a victim of sort of a really good scheme to turn a lot of people against her. And there's got to be some ways to trace that back. The other thing is maybe there's some more education or some supports that have to be out there to all of the students, that if you get into a position on the electronic devices where you think that someone is bullying you, and instead of reacting, just shut them down. You know, either leave the group if that's a thing, or I know on iPhones you can block people. You know, protect yourself. Don't engage in it. Just try to avoid it then. And if it gets bad, then you maybe go to the authorities yourself. But honestly, usually, and this is what, when I was even growing up, it was the same thing. If somebody was picking on you and you engaged in it, you started to cry, whatever, that made them feel better and more powerful, and they would just torture you more. So if you just ignored it, and it's not always easy to do, I know you've been down that road too, where your first reaction is to attack back, but try to you know, extricate yourself from the situation. Either block them, shut off your phone, walk away for a couple days, don't go on Facebook anymore. Then, you know, you could excuse me, you could even change your Facebook ID and only give it out to the people that you really trust, or not your ID, but I mean whoever you are on Facebook, stuff like that.
It's also hard, like at school, I see that it's hard when the person comes back, everybody else is mad at the person because they're demonstrated as the bad guy, so everybody at the schoolyard is bugging the person, and it's not even the person's fault. Like, it's the other person, but everybody else is like, oh, we feel so bad for this person.
Yeah. And they've obviously only heard probably the one side of the story, right? And that's a super tough position to be in. I'm sure I don't even know what the answer really is, because I mean, you can take somebody completely out of that school system or whatever and move them somewhere else, but with social media, stuff follows you, so it doesn't even really almost matter which school you're in anymore. But no matter what, you should be able to have your, I'm going to say, day in court, or your, you know, day in public court, if that's what it is. But you're not guilty until you're proven guilty, and if you haven't really been proven guilty, then how can everybody paint you the picture? And I know sometimes once you fling something at a wall, it sticks, whether it's right or wrong, or true or not, and it's just a super tough spot. You know, the people that know you, that know this person or know you and love and support you, your good friends, they're the ones that should be out there sticking by you, and that will show everybody else that this can't really be true, because so-and-so is still hanging around with her, and we like so-and-so, and I don't know. It's probably, and some people are just closed-minded and will always only believe that one person's side of the story, and that's something that happens in childhood and adulthood still too.
All right, so that was the show. Thank you for coming on, and have a nice day.